Hey everyone, what's up? I'm Jack, this is Jill, and we're the Cynical Siblings. Today we're reviewing WandaVision, Season 1, Episode 2, Don't Touch That Dial.
I like that we have episode titles now.
Yeah, I couldn't find an episode title for the first episode at the time that we watched the first episode.
Yeah, well, I like episode titles. I don't know why, but I do.
Okay.
This episode was written by Gretchen Enders and directed by Matt Shackman. So, what are you drinking?
I am drinking La Posta. It is a Malbec from Argentina. What are you drinking?
I'm also drinking an Argentinian Malbec. It's called Gascon. It was a gift, and I'm trying it for the first time, and I like it.
Yeah, some of the best Malbecs come out of Argentina.
I think all the best, but that's just me.
All right. What did you think of this episode?
Meh. How about you?
I felt like it existed both in time and space.
Whoa. Both in time and in space.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it happened.
It did.
All right. That was the spoiler-free review. The rest of this episode will contain spoilers. So if you have not seen the episode, I don't know why you're watching a review about it. But go you.
Yeah. I recommend that you do the other thing first and then come back.
Definitely come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you do you.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
you can watch this and then watch the episode. I think that actually works for some people. So yeah.
If that's your thing, I don't understand, but I accept it. All right. So, what did you really think of this episode?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I appreciated the opening, the Bewitched style opening.
The intro, yeah.
But I mean, we established in our last review that these older style situational comedies are just not my style. There's not a lot of character development. I probably take things way too seriously and expect my TV shows to take things way more seriously. And the whole scene with Dottie by the pool, like, that stuff just gives me anxiety because, like, I've been in those situations with people and
It's just too real.
it's a little, like, it's on one hand way too absurd, and on another hand, like, just a little too real. How about you? What were your real thoughts?
Was everything black and white when you were in those situations?
Not recently, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Again, sitcoms, especially something out of the 60s, is just not my style. I think they're doing an excellent job of mimicking that style.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're doing an excellent job of writing in the comedy. It's just not my cup of tea or my glass of wine. So it's, it was good for what it is. And what it is something I'm not into. Having said that, there's a lot of really interesting little elements in this that I'd really like to cover. First of all, I'd like to go over the part where they come across like the first object that's in color, which is when they step outside. Wanda finds that helicopter, that toy helicopter in the rose bushes.
Yeah.
So that's different.
Yep.
It's in yellow and red. It's got a sword symbol on it. It's kind of strange. I hypothesized that a sword helicopter flew overhead and her powers transformed it into a toy, but I don't know.
Okay. Because I thought it was maybe a drone that she turned into a toy.
Oh, yeah, that could be.
Because otherwise I'm worried about the little tiny people in the helicopter.
Well, maybe they got turned into toy people.
Well, that's sad. It's a little evil to turn people into plastic. You're effectively killing them.
I'm not disagreeing.
Or, I mean, Star Trek tells me that they can't breathe if they're real little, so is that true?
I'm not sure.
Like their lungs can't handle air molecules or something anymore because they've gone from like this big to like itty bitty?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know if we've tried to do chemistry at like different scaled molecules.
I guess we haven't really shrink-rayed people to know.
Right, so we are lacking the scientific data on that to come to any good conclusion. I'm sure Star Trek did its best job of making stuff up.
They do that. As long as they're
Is that
tracking
an old DS9 episode?
No, it's a Voyager episode.
I could have sworn it was a DS. There's a DS9 episode where they shrink themselves, where they get shrunk.
Oh, the shuttle. Maybe it is DS9.
Yeah, I think it's DS9. Anyways,
Right.
that's not relevant here.
It is
Okay,
not.
so yeah, they find the first colored object in this episode, which color becomes a thing throughout this episode. And then, Agnes shows up right there, and she says something about you're the star of the show. So obviously she knows something, and now we know that she knows something. So now we know that she knows.
Yeah,
but we don't know what she knows.
I think Agnes is very astute and uses a lot of joking and sexual innuendo to maybe cover some of that. But I do read her as being a very astute character. So I'm curious what her take on all of this is.
I think her husband's secretly involved somehow, because we still haven't seen him.
Oh, you said something about that I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's that, you were saying there's that, and I know it too, the trope.
It's a trope. Like, there's that one character that always gets mentioned, but you never see.
Everyone
Ralph
talks about that character, yeah.
Right, Ralph is that character in these first couple episodes, and I just am hoping that they're actually doing something cool with that instead of just making him a background comedy character.
That would be so much fun if there's a reason that Wanda doesn't ever see him. And if he's like somehow actually a focal point of this whole thing, like maybe it's because of Ralph that she's in this town to begin with, or something. Like that would be, yeah, I would really enjoy that and be very amused. And I have to say, like the writing in this is really excellent in the ways that they're working these pieces of this Marvel comic book-esque, well, it's not esque, it's literal Marvel comic book characters into this sitcom style, and giving you all of these details through it. So I don't want to give the impression that I don't appreciate what's happening. I just, sitting through that scene with Dottie and the whole talent show just was just not...
I'm sure that those scenes are funny.
Just not to us.
They're very hilarious. So also we have another commercial in this episode.
Yep.
For the
Strucker
watch. Right. And here I think it's really interesting that the last episode, the commercial was a toaster, a Starkmaster 2000 toaster. This episode, it's the Strucker watch. And I was thinking about Wanda's life history in the MCU. And in the MCU, her and her brother Pietro live in Sokovia, and Sokovia goes through some sort of war. And some of the war is dominated by Stark technology. So they're very angry with Stark. And then they go to Strucker, who genetically modifies them somehow, and they become Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch.
So are they mutants in that case?
That's complicated.
Okay.
But right now they're not.
Okay.
So that's I just think that's interesting that the Starkmaster 2000 Toastmaster and then the Strucker watch kind of follows her own personal timeline. Yeah. I just think that's a really interesting piece. I don't know if that actually means anything. I just noticed it.
Yeah, I feel like, again, we talked a lot in the last review about how there are all of these, like, tropes that they're using that probably mean more than they would, like, in the actual time period.
Right.
That, like, someone's kind of, in some ways, writing a love letter to this era of sitcoms. And also very aware of all the ways that the storytelling just didn't make sense. And so creating a story out of the pieces of storytelling that often didn't make sense in older style sitcoms, which I really enjoy. I really appreciate that. And, we talked about, I wanted to point out too with the toaster and the watch. So the toaster had that beeping noise that sounded like it was about to explode. And I thought it was interesting that with the watch, toward the end, the tick-tocking of the watch...
Right. Starts to speed up.
Like an old-school stopwatch. I thought that was... I don't know, there just seems to be a theme there. And I'm really curious. I trust the writing. I trust the MCU in general. I trust these writers. to sew these pieces together, and so I'm enjoying collecting them and waiting to see what happens with them.
Right before the scene with the watch, I think it's right before, that glass breaks in Dottie's hand, and we see the blood, and that's the second time we see color, and here it's, the red blood.
Yeah, I have to say, Dottie's character frustrated me, and part of that is just personal experience with similar, we're going to say difficult personalities. That's what we're going to call that. But I have to say...
That was very diplomatic. I know what you really intend.
But I do have to say, when the glass breaks in her... So first off, hang on, let me step back a step. Wanda says to Dottie, we mean you no harm, which is a really weird thing for one neighbor to say to another. So they're talking about something beyond...
Should I stop saying that to the neighbors?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Go on.
Okay. Anyway, so... So Wanda says this to Dottie. Dottie says, I don't believe you. And then the radio thing happens. The glass explodes in her hand. Wanda rushes to get her the linen napkin. And I have to give it to Dottie that really at this point, she pulls herself together really well. And she has that line about, pop quiz, Wanda. How does a housewife get blood out of a white linen cloth? By doing it herself, and she walks away. So this really weird, disconcerting thing has happened, and she totally takes command back of the situation and marches back up. So I do have to give that character a lot of credit, even though she sets me off. Just watching that whole sequence, I'm actually wondering if they do anything further with her character in the future.
This is completely not related to this episode at all, or to WandaVision at all, but it is my understanding that in linguistic science, we have determined that the first two colors that humans gave words to were black and white. I don't know how they determined this, but linguistic science, it's complicated. And then the third color that we gave a word to was red. So I just think that's really interesting that, that everything's in black and white, and then the first thing we see show up are shades of red. I don't know. That's not really related to anything. I just thought it was interesting.
No, but, they're clearly leaning into that trope. Or that, I should stop calling it a trope. Not everything is a trope. But they're clearly leaning into that artistic choice that I've seen quite a few times. Where something is all in black and white, but then you have moments of red. It is very striking. There is something kind of visceral that happens with that setup.
All right, so we've covered the watch and the changing, or the first few scenes where we see some color. There's a talent show.
Mm-hmm. It exists in time and space.
Vision gets drunk on gum because synthezoids do that, I guess.
We have now learned.
Yeah, who knew? And so he almost shows off his powers, but Wanda uses her powers to cancel out his power, to cover up his power. I don't know.
I did really enjoy the line of with the hat passing through him, and the one I can't think of her name. The one character who said, "Is that how mirrors work?"
Oh, yes, and it's not.
That was really good.
That is not how mirrors work.
Yeah.
And then comes the end, and the end is really where sort of the most interesting part happens. You have the beekeeper come up out of the sewers with the sword logo on his back, with bees buzzing around him. That's kind of strange. I would guess that Wanda's powers somehow altered what he looks like, that he looks like a beekeeper. I don't know. That's my best guess.
Yeah, I keep wondering. I think obviously she changed his look. He came up in maybe some kind of sword suit that should let him move through whatever reality she's creating. So I think definitely she changed him to look like something else. I'm not sure if like a beekeeper was just the closest thing that she could come up with. Beekeepers don't normally walk around with like swarms of bees around them though, like without a hive nearby. Like that's weird. So I'm wondering if there's something more specific to the beekeeper. For example, they keep zooming out into the hexagon shape.
Right.
Hexagons being the architectural shape that bees create their combs in. So it's a really fundamental aspect of bees. So I don't know if there's something else there, some reason specifically for a beekeeper, or if that's just the nearest image she could meld into this time period. But what was about the bees like swarming around him?
Yeah, I don't know.
That doesn't.
It doesn't really make sense. No.
Like that doesn't even make fake sense.
But here we see her rewind time and sort of recreate everything. Right. Now, in the last episode, Mr. Hart starts choking when he challenges their sense of reality.
Mm-hmm.
This time, she uses her powers in a much more drastic way, and actually rewinds time and sort of recreates the events so that they don't happen. We discover she's pregnant and everything goes to color.
Mm-hmm.
And then the episode ends. So,
which is another nice Bewitched reference, since Bewitched switched from black and white to in color.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
In the middle of the series.
Right. So, I assume that going forward we're going to be in color.
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't mention some of the new characters. So we mentioned Dottie.
Geraldine shows up in this episode.
It was interesting, yeah.
And she seems to struggle to know who she is or like know what her name is when she introduces herself. I just got the sense that she needed an extra second to think of who she is. So that was weird.
That was weird. Herb was in there. The guy with the mustache. I can't think of his name.
I can't think of his name either.
No, but anyway, they introduced a few new characters. So that was good. And yeah, you kind of got to know the town a little bit, which I don't know. Like I'm still trying to think about where they're taking this. Where obviously there's some kind of weird reality melting situation happening. I want to see where they take it with these characters who are. I mean, how would you feel if you were suddenly in the middle of a 1960s sitcom?
Well, since I'm not a big fan, I probably wouldn't be a big fan.
There's that.
Yeah, I think that would be fair to say.
Like, it'd be weird to be followed around by a laugh track.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm okay with that.
No.
Huh, okay. I'd be really uncomfortable doing anything where I knew people were watching what I was doing and commenting on it. Which reminds me, please comment below.
Yes, please.
With pretty much anything, because anything you write helps our algorithm.
Yep, it's all about the algorithm.
Right.
I don't know. What did you have for breakfast?
I don't care what they had for breakfast. I don't care what you had for breakfast.
Oh.
Anyways, like, subscribe, click the bell, do all that stuff. I think this is the end of our second video.
I think it is.
All right, congratulations. We just reviewed WandaVision season 1, episode 2.
Cheers.